Hi, my name is Riebeck, and this is my video presentation. So, the directive on passive resistance and proclamation calling of passive resistance were two government proclamations issued by the Weimar Republic government on January 19th and September 26, 1923, respectively. The publication of these two proclamations was not an isolated event, but rather the result of a series of tense international relations and historical developments at the time. Following the end of the First World War, the 1919 Treaty of Versailles required Germany to pay substantial war reparations to the Allied powers. The Reparations Commission set the total amount at 132 billion marks, to be paid in the form of coal, timber, and cash. However, Germany's economy had been severely devastated during the First World War, and in the post-war period it had lost a significant number of natural resource deposits, such as three-quarters of the coal mines in Upper Silesia and mineral deposits in the Lorraine region. This left Germany unable to pay these reparations, resulting in repeated breaches of contract. By early January 1923, Germany had failed to deliver coal on time on 34 occasions over the preceding 36 months. The German government also allowed its currency to depreciate. The devaluation of the mark reduces the real value of the reparations Germany was paying. France was deeply dissatisfied with this. By the end of 1922, the French government had tightened its economic control over Germany. It set Reparations Control Commission, based in Berlin, effectively took charge of Germany's finances, with the power to veto any expenditure it deemed unnecessary and to implement any tax increases it deemed feasible. However, France believed that Germany was still evading its reparations obligations within the legal framework. French Prime Minister Poincaré had hoped to cooperate with Britain to use non-military sanctions to compel Germany to pay reparations on time. But divisions within the Entente led to the plan coming to nothing. France sought to restore its own economy through the collection of war reparations from Germany, and to dismantle Germany in order to eliminate any potential threat it might pose to France. Britain, however, felt that if the heavy industries of France and Germany were to cooperate, Britain would be driven out of the European market, and its metallurgical industry would lose a vital market for its products. Moreover, a France that was too powerful was something Britain was determined to avoid. Ultimately, on January 11th, 1923, in conjunction with Belgium, France, in conjunction with Belgium, sent troops to occupy the Ruhr region of Germany. This was precisely the reason why the German government issued Document A, a key document. A key point of Document A was the declaration that the occupation of the Ruhr region by France and Belgium violated international law and Treaty of Versailles. In the face of France's aggressive action, the German government decided to adopt a policy of passive resistance. This policy was advocated by the then Chancellor Keyu and was passed by Riksdag on 30th January 1923. Document A required all German officials not to obey any decrees issued by the occupying authorities, but to follow only the instructions of their own government. This was the core of the policy of passive persistence. However, this policy further exacerbated Germany's already dire economic situation. To ensure the support of the people in the Ruhr region, the government provided local businesses with low-interest loans and direct compensation. It also paid the wages of civil servants who were not working. As there were insufficient economic resources to support these expenditures, the government continuously issued more paper money, ultimately leading to hyperinflation in 1923. The German paper mark plummeted from 17,000 paper marks to the dollar at the beginning of the year to 4.2 trillion paper marks at the peak of inflation. Document B was issued against this backdrop. It begins by detailing the severe oppression suffered by German people during the French and Belgian occupation, including mass deportations, violence, and imprisonment. Document B's account of these events is historically accurate. During the occupation, the French imposed over 120,000 penalties on demonstrators, deported resistance fighters from the Ruhr region to unoccupied parts of Germany, and caused the death of 137 civilians and injuries to over 600 others. The government also acknowledged in Document B that the enormous financial expenditure required to support the resistance movement had become unsustainable, and this signals the end of the policy of passive resistance. The economic collapse at that time exacerbated political instability in Germany. Faced with nationwide strike movements, the Keyu government, which had supported passive resistance, was ultimately brought down. The newly formed Gustav government announced the end of passive resistance on September 26, 1923. These two documents and the Ruhr occupation that lay behind them had a significant impact on Weimar Germany. Firstly, its crisis brought the Nazi Party to national attention for the first time. Hyperinflation and social unrest intensified nationalist sentiment. Hitler exploited public dissatisfaction with the government's weakness to launch the beer hall putsch in Bavaria. Although the coup failed, the publicity surrounding his trial made him a focal point of the national right wing, laying the foundations for the Nazi Party's subsequent expansion. Secondly, the crisis spurred an improvement in Franco-German relations. Following the failure of passive resistance, Germany was compelled to adopt a pragmatic diplomatic approach. In 1924, the Dawes Plan revised the reparations scheme, and the injection of the American capital stabilized the German economy. The signing of the Locarno Pact in 1925 marked a move towards reconciliations between France and Germany. Finally, the German Communist movement suffered a severe setback during the crisis and underwent a strategic shift. The German Communist Party had attempted to launch an armed uprising to seize power. The 1923 Hamburg uprising was swiftly suppressed, and the organization faced a severe repression. Subsequently, under the guidance of the Comintern, the German Communist Party abandoned the immediate revolution line, shifting instead to parliamentary struggle and a united front strategy, and found itself in a state of relative political isolation. In short, The two proclamations tell the story of resistance pushed to its breaking point. The Ruhr occupation and hyperinflation that followed exposed just how fragile the Weimar Republic really was. From that moment on, the political landscape was never the same. Radical forces gained ground, moderate politics lost credibility, and the path toward stability grew steeper than ever. This is the final of my presentation. Thank you.